In order to understand how Steamboat Willie came to be, we have to first look at the circumstances surrounding its creator, Walt Disney. Walt Disney was born on December 5th, 1901 in Chicago, Illinois, and passed on December 15th, 1966. From a young age, he displayed a fascination with early cinema, especially focusing on cartoons. After serving in World War I, he returns home and takes up a job at an art studio where he meets Ub Iwerk. Iwerk is a key figure in the rise of the Disney empire. After getting laid off, Disney gets picked up to work at the Kansas City Film Ad Company, where he eventually got Iwerk hired. Disney's curiosity leads him to learn filmmaking and equipment operation. He began taking the equipment home and started inventing advanced animation techniques that were not commercially used. With this knowledge, he finally breathed life into his doodles and an animator was born. It wasn't long before he learned everything he could from his job and outgrew it professionally. He knows this, and along with Iwerk, they create their second business, Laugh-O-Gram. They create and sell short films to the Newman Theater and soon were hired by Pictorial Clubs. Pictorial Clubs ends up ordering 6 short films from them with payments granted after delivery. However, Pictorial Clubs ends up going bankrupt and Laugh-O-Gram doesn't get the funding promised.
When Pictorial Clubs signed the contract for the Laugh-O-Grams, the contract specified that Disney and his co-workers were to get $11,100. What they got was the $100. That was it. The contract was set up so that they were supposed to get the rest of the money a long way down the road. But conveniently enough, Pictorial Clubs went out of business before that.
As a result, in order to make some money, Disney begins working on Alice's Wonderland, but they weren't able to finish in time and eventually go bankrupt themselves. In 1923, a penniless Walt decides to move to Hollywood to find a job as a director. With no prospects, he decides to fall back on animation.
I came to Hollywood and there's just one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to get into the motion picture business. I wanted to be a director. That was my ambition, my goal, be a director.
He, along with his brother, opened the Disney Brothers studio and recruit Iwerks to work with them, where they continued developing Alice's Wonderland. Disney's determination allows his work to land in cartoon distributor Margaret Winkler's lap, who agrees to distribute the Alice comedies for Walt. In 1927, Universal Pictures was looking to compete in the animation space against Felix the Cat and tasked Margaret's husband to find a talent. Margaret recommends Walt and they begin to work. This results in Oswald the Lucky Rabbit being born. The following year, Walt's contract is up and he takes a trip to New York to renegotiate a higher pay. In a business move, they tell him that they're going to be paying him less, and if he disagrees, then his entire staff will be hired out.
Together with Lily, Walt boarded a train to New York to strike a new deal. But Mintz had an unpleasant surprise.
I think he figured that he could produce the Oswald cartoons just as well as Disney and do away with the middleman. Mintz had in effect stolen the character from Disney. Now, I think it needs to be made clear that this was standard practice at the time. The distributor owned the rights to the character.
On the train ride home, he begins sketching his new cartoon and, more importantly, a creation he'll fully own. This creation is Mortimer Mouse. With guidance, the mouse was renamed Mickey through his wife's suggestion and refined artistically by Ub. Walt knew that if he wanted to compete, he needed to do something different. The answer was audio. Cinema had begun changing once again and silent films were being threatened with talkies, and Walt knew that he needed to get ahead of the curve. Near the end of 1928, he was ready to unveil his revolutionary short film. The very first animation featuring Mickey Mouse wasn't Plain Crazy, however, the first one publicly released was the third one made, Steamboat Willie. Following the release, it was clear that Steamboat Willie was a huge success and primarily revolutionary due to the synchronized audio. Gone were the days of sound being relegated into a non-diegetic role. The positive feedback fueled Walt to continue animating, and so he began pushing the limits of animations, starting with his silly symphonies. And that is a story for another time.